Thank you, sweet Joshua.
Praise your name. Praise your name. Wonderful time. Wonderful day. And we're so glad of all those that has joined us on Skype, and those of you that will join us through the teaching when we get it posted. We thank Yeshua for you too. With all the troubles that's going on in the world, I was kind of having a difficult time trying to figure out what to talk about today, seeing what Yeshua was wanting me to talk about today, but that was just it. There's talking about the troubles and the trials of this day, and all the trouble that's in the world today. And I'm going to be talking out of a chapter in a book that everybody seems to know, but reading it, I think they get confused or just really don't understand. I really don't know which it would be. But they're because man is looking at the world today and everything that's going on in the world today, and all the troubles seems like everywhere. We even got him right here in this country. In the last week there's been riots and looting, and they're in a little town in Missouri, and but man is just in this world, and of course this world, man is making it what it is, but it's just getting so terrible, and people are looking at it, and they're thinking, well, the coming of the Messiah is soon, it could be at any time. But as I look at the world today and in the terrible shape that it is in, I don't look at it thinking that Messiah is going to be here at any time. I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at it through the eyes that Yeshua is giving me, and I don't see his coming at least being imminent. I'll put it that way, and it's simply because of what his word says and what his word tells us. Right. I'm gonna be speaking out of the 24th chapter of Mark. Well, no, not Mark, Matthew. I could take it out of Mark, or I could take it out of Luke, but I think Matthew gives a better. It ain't the 24th chapter of Mark, but it's in Mark. But I think Matthew gives the better illustration, if you will, or defines it better than Mark or Luke. Either one defines it. It talks of it, but it doesn't say as much, I don't think, as Matthew does. But anyway, it's concerning the end and the coming of the Messiah. And today you've got, I call them false prophets because they're teaching everything, and false teachers. But anyway, they're making predictions and telling the world that the coming of the Messiah is soon, like it could be next week, next month, but they're not understanding what the Messiah is. They're looking at the world and the troubles that are in the world and the turmoil that the world is in right now, and they're saying, well, this is a sign of the coming of the Messiah. Well, it is a sign of the coming of the Messiah, but it's not the imminent sign of the coming of the Messiah. And he says so. The Messiah himself says so. He states it, and he says so. But anyway, let me get it into. Let me read here in Matthew. I'm gonna try not to read. Well, I won't. I won't read all of this Matthew because it's a whole lot of scriptures in the 24th chapter. But I do want to get to certain amounts of it. But anyway, we know here, kind of to set the setting, Yeshua had been in the temple, and he's been denouncing the Pharisees and the scribes and, Sadducees, and he's been, because of their teachings and what they're leading the children of Israel in, he's been denouncing them but anyway, we won't read any of that, but we want to pick up. Yeshua has come out, or is going to come out of the temple. He's coming out of the temple, and he himself, he just you can tell that he's upset because they're not wanting to listen to him. They're wanting to follow their own imaginations and their own ideals of how things ought to be, just like man is today. But you can tell he's upset, because he said, oh, Jerusalem, that killest the prophets and stonest them which are sent unto thee. How often would I have, gathered you as a hen would gather her chicks, because of a fear of a disaster. How often would I have gathered you, but you wouldn't? And he's telling them, behold, your house is left unto you desolate, or in ruins. And he tells them there, just before he comes out of the temple, he tells them, says, I say unto you, you shall not see me henceforth. You're not going to see me henceforth till you shall say, Hebrew Barak Haba B'Shem Yahweh. Blessed is he that comes in the name of Yahweh. And then he comes out of the temple. And his disciples knows very well that he's upset because they're wanting to, show him the beautiful building, the beautiful temple that's there. What a beautiful place. That man has built unto God. This is a beautiful place. But it don't mean that much to the Messiah. The beauty of it, the size of it, the grandeur of it doesn't mean anything to the Messiah, and it's because it's not being used to worship him in or to worship God. It's being used to further the imaginations and doctrines of man. And what they seriously believe in, what they think, and the way they believe it. And that's what he's just been in there denouncing them for. So this beautiful place that they've got built there, and the grandeur of it and the size of it means nothing to him, because when they show him, his disciples show him this beautiful building, he looks at them and says, you see all of this? Now I'm paraphrasing a little bit here. It's in the 24th chapter here. But you see all of this beauty, all this grandeur, all of this. I'm telling you now, there's not going to be one stone left upon another. Not one stone. You see all of this? Ain't it beautiful? But there ain't going to be one stone of it left sitting upon that other. That it's going to be completely destroyed. This temple that all hold so dear to their hearts. And I got news for them today with all these big synagogues and temples they've got built out here supposedly to Yahweh, to Yeshua. They're not going to be one of them going to be standing when he comes back. And he gets through with this world, ain't going to be a one of them standing. They don't, if you're not obeying him, if you're not worshiping him, all the other stuff don't mean a thing to him. All of your great stuff that you do and don't mean a thing to him. And I'm kind of getting off of what I'm talking about today, but I just want you to understand what man deems as important in his worship to God, if it's not according to the will of God, it don't mean a thing.
That's right.
It doesn't mean a thing. But anyway, he told them there's not a stone left, or not a stone of this building going to be left upon another stone. It's going to be completely destroyed. And he went out to the Mount of Olives at that time. And his disciples went with him, you know. And as they set up out there and they gathered out there with him out on the Mount of Olives, they came to him and asked him, said, well, what is the sign? What is the signs of all of this? That we'll know, I guess, that the coming and the end of the world. What's going to be the signs? And Yeshua began to answer. And he said, you listen. Let no man deceive you. You take heed, you listen. Shema, if you will. You listen. Let no man deceive you. Many is going to come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and shall deceive many. And I know I went over this many times with all of you, concerning this, about this verse right here. Many's going to come, and they're going to deceive and say that he is the Messiah, and deceive many. And of course, many has misread that, saying that they're going to come saying they're the Messiah. Well, that's not what he said. He said there's going to be many coming and saying he is the Messiah, and which they are. There's all kinds of things being taught, or being being taught or preached about the Messiah today. And many of it is false and deceiving. And he's telling them that. But this is just signs of his coming. And you see it all over, especially this country, the United States. You see it bad in this country. Every denomination that even believes in the Messiah, or believes there is a Messiah, every one of them has got their own doctrine of how we are to accept and to receive and to worship him. Every one of them has got their own doctrine. Even the one that I don't want to say part of because I'm not, Messianic or Hebrew roots, Christianity, all of this has got their own doctrine about how that we are to worship or should be worshiping the Messiah. And each one of them is teaching that the Messiah, the signs is everywhere that he's coming. He's coming. But as I look at the signs today that's out there, that are signs of his coming, but they're not the imminent signs of his coming. I mean, I don't look for him next month, next year. No, this world is still too tame, if you will, really, for his coming yet. And there's a lot of things that hasn't happened yet that he said would happen. That he even gave Daniel that would happen. Mm-hmm. That people misinterpret or are teaching falsely about what Daniel actually said. They're teaching it wrong. But anyway, I'm just wanting to give you the signs that's out there today with all the turmoil that's out there today. But anyway, he said that that many are going to come in his name, saying, "I am the Messiah," and shall deceive many. And that, honey, that's been going on for a long time. And it says, "And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled." Now, people today are troubled on every hand. People are being, I see them. And I hear of them, they're scared to death because of what is signs that is upon the world today. Worried about this and scared about that. But God says, don't be troubled by it. For all of this that he speaks of, it must come to pass. But he says, but the end is not yet. In other words, his coming and the end of the world is not yet. All of this problems that you see coming today, all the turmoil that's in the world today, is not the imminent sign of his coming. It is just the beginning of troubles. It's the beginning of sorrows. There is a lot yet to come. And I don't know, Pat and I she asked me a question, I think it was this morning, I think about, people, the way that people are today committing suicides and, destroying themselves, if that's not kind of the word of God that tells that, people are going to cry for the rocks to fall upon them, And I would say it probably is, because they're looking out at this world today, and it is a lot of turmoil, it's a lot of trouble, it's a lot of sorrow out here today. But it's not, the end is not yet. This is only the beginning. Because he tells us nation is going to rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places or assorted or different places. There's going to be. And that's what we're seeing today. We're seeing wars. Look at Hamas and Israel. Look at Syria. Look at Iraq. Look at Ukraine. Look at North Korea and South Korea, and just look at all of these nations, and look at all the wars that's actually going on, and rumors of wars that could start. at any time. You know, and Yeshua, it tells his disciples, you know, all of this is going to come to pass. All of these wars, these rumors of wars, and these nations against nations, and pestilences, and it seems like one pestilence don't end till another one begins anymore. You know, they've even got this Ebola over there in Africa. And, you know, all kinds of pestilences and all kinds of earthquakes. You know, they just practically every week you hear over the news of an earthquake somewhere, you know, that is really shaking that country, or, you know, but, you know, God says Yeshua tells his disciples, so these are the beginnings of sorrows. You know, they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. You know, that's they're using this ISIS and Hamas, and you know, in other words, the radical Islamic states over there. You know, they're using them as a lot of people are using them as examples, and well, you know, they are, but you know, their hatred is not just for those that claim the name of Yeshua, or Christianity, if you will, or even Israel. You know, they have an extreme hatred of that and of those, but they hate anything that's not against them, that is not with them. You know, you know, if you're, especially the Islamic extremists, if you're not part of what they believe, I don't care what you believe. Are you Buddhist or what? They you know, they're out to destroy you. You either believe the way they do or you die. You know, and they are part of the signs and the wonders and the, you know, the things that's going on. They're part of it, but the very ideal that, and I know they did in the beginning when you know, this gospel first began to be preached. I know the children that proclaimed the name of the Messiah was they were persecuted, and they were killed and imprisoned, and you know, I know they were, but nothing like there's going to be. And you know, that's why I teach, is because I understand. And that's why I teach, put your faith in Him and Him alone. And learn of Him. Don't, you know, just because somebody says, well, I'm a Christian or I'm Messianic, and and that makes them hunky-dory fine, you know, learn of Him. Because that's what it's going to take. You know, many are going, when the time of the persecution or the tribulation really begins to happen upon the children that are called according to His, you know, according to His word. When that begins, many of those that proclaim it today is going to deny it then. There's going to be a falling away then. There's people going to change their religion simply because if they don't, they either get beheaded, or they get thrown in jail, or get denied their food, or you know, and they're going to change because they're not rooted and grounded in Him, and only His kind, those that are His is the only ones that's really going to be able to endure to the end. You know, there, and the next verse actually says what I just said, that many is going to change, and many is going to deny him, because it says, and then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another, and many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. Well,
They're out there.
honey, this world's full of them. And it says, and because iniquity or lawlessness, and don't get that mixed up with what man is talking about lawlessness today. Because of iniquity shall abound, the love of many is going to wax cold. In other words, they're going to give up, they're going to quit, they're going to deny. But Yeshua says, but them that endure to the end, those are the ones that are going to be saved. The same shall be saved. The 13th verse. Those that endure, those that are rooted and grounded in, has their faith rooted and grounded into the Messiah and not in everything that every man out here is teaching. But those that are rooted and grounded in Him. Now I know there's so much going on in the world to the effect that it's affecting each and every life today. And it's getting worse all the time. And man is got to the point to they only think about uno, the number one, themselves. They don't. People are not caring about the nation, their government, and it comes all the way down to the family unit. Man don't care. Is getting to where it doesn't care about the family unit, of supporting, one another and loving one another. It's just what I desire and what I want. And pay attention to me. Don't worry about what you need. That's each individual's ideal. Don't worry about what you need, worry about what I need. Think about me. And that's the way the world is today. But it says those that are endured to the end, those that will keep their faith in the Messiah, not in the teachings that man is teaching out here and the false prophets are telling. Not that, but put your faith in Him. Lean on Him. Let Him be your guide. Those are the ones that's going to endure to the end. The gospel, His gospel is going to be preached, to all kingdoms before the end comes, in which we can just about say now that has just about come to pass. The 15th verse here, that I would have to go into with another teaching to really get an understanding there. It says, because when you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, and it's parentheses there says, whoso readeth, let him understand. What he's talking about. In other words, know what you're talking about when you and know that you understand what he's talking about there when he's talking about what the vision that Daniel had about the desolation, and like I said, that would have to be another teaching. And even in that teaching, you would find that the actual coming of the Messiah, if you look at that the vision of Daniel there, and understand that vision, you would understand right now that the Messiah's imminent coming is not yet. There's many things that Daniel spoke of there especially talking about the last 7 years that has not even started yet. And those 7 years has to come and be fulfilled before the Messiah comes. So if you understood that, then you would know that his imminent coming is not yet. But that don't mean that I won't be called out tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. It don't mean that you ain't gonna be called out next, in the same time period. It don't mean that. But it's talking about the coming, his coming. But now you and I have to stand ready and keep our faith in him, because I don't know when I'm going to be called out. You don't know when you're going to be called out. I just know that his imminent coming is not right now. And a lot of people probably that hear that probably will want to think that I'm a false teacher, but as time goes by, you'll find out that I ain't. That it's not imminent. But anyway, I'm going to skip through a few verses here, and he's and where he's talked about other these terrible days that is coming, and it's not referring in those terrible days about the the great tribulation will enter in during those troublesome days, during those terrible days. But as I said, if you look at the scripture, you see that is not yet started, although some teach that Jacob's trouble, which they refer to as beginning of tribulation, begun back a few years ago, but not according to not according to the signs that Yeshua gave his disciples that would come. So anyway, we'll not go on into that. But it gives examples about your time upon this earth. Pray that your time upon this earth is not during this period of time, and the reason for it is that it's going to be a terrible time, even worse than what you and I are experiencing now. And I know, in our prayer requests, when we take our prayer requests, before Yeshua, I know Pat has written down that we are, to remember us and our family, because it seems like there's something going on in, each one of our children's lives, and, it's just seems like a never-ending thing, and it's growing worse and worse about man, how this world is doing, and it's I could, and like I said though, if I wanted to talk about each scripture, I'd be here for a long time, and I don't want to have to be here I don't want to have to go through all that. I don't feel that that's what Yeshua is wanting me to do, is to go through each one of these things. But if you will study each one of them and understand each one of them, let the Spirit enlighten you on each one of them, you can understand that His coming is, as He says, is not yet, because a lot of things has to come to pass, and I know a lot of some people claim they already have a lot of them, and some of them hasn't, and blah blah blah. You get, that's man teaching. But anyway, he's talking about people saying, "Well, here's the Messiah. Let's go out to see him. Messiah's over here. The Messiah's over there." He said, "Don't believe him. The Messiah's not going to be over here, or he's not going to be over there. Because when he comes, he's going to come quickly. Just as he says, as the lightning is, he's talking about being false messiahs and false prophets. And now this is where he's talking about, where I was talking about in the first verse, or first few verses here, where that he said that many shall come in my name and say that I am the Messiah and deceive many. A lot of people mix that up with what he's saying here in the 24th verse, which it says, For there shall arise false messiahs and false prophets, and show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if possible they shall deceive the very elect. It says, Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret place, secret chambers, believe it not. For as the lightning cometh from the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man. It's going to be just that fast. He's not going to be tarrying over here, nor is he going to be tarrying over there for you to come and see and for you to look at. He's going to come. When he comes, he's coming. And he's not coming until after the tribulation of those days. He's not coming until after all of that. And I'd have to get in, once again, I'd have to get into teaching, talking about, and number one, I think I said something about this in a service a week or so ago, or whenever it was, I forget. But, talking about that he's going to, that Satan himself is going to be, this world is going to give him authority, and he's going to give Israel peace for a period of time, and they're going to be able to worship their God, and they're going to be able to probably build the temple that people are talking about them building. And whenever you see that start happening, honey, you better really get into the Messiah, because that is going to happen. There's going to be at least a perception of peace, because the Messiah says when they say peace, sudden destruction is going to come. So there is going to be a perception at some time or another of the peace. Israel's going to be able to worship God the way they want to worship Him. In the temple, most likely, and they're going to be able to do it for 3.5 years. Have they been able to do that now? No. Even since the Messiah has been? Have they been able to do that? No. And then at the end of the 3.5 years, or they call it certain days, Satan's going to stand up. He's going to stop it. He's going to stand in the temple himself and proclaim himself to be God. And then there's when great tribulation is going to come. Because all that don't accept him as God is going to go through hell on earth, if you would. And that's going to be another 3.5 years. There's 7 years. I'm not trying to explain all of this. I'm just trying to give you a heads up or a knowledge that the coming is not yet. There's a lot of trouble still to happen before he comes. But we're not to be troubled in it. Because if our faith is in Him, He will see us through it.
Yes.
We will be able to see through that and live through that, because those that are alive and remain until His coming, you will be able to live through that if your faith is in Him. And that's the reason, like I said earlier, that I teach, put your faith in Him. Don't look to all of this other stuff. Put your faith in Him. And let Him be your guide, because that's what's going to see you through it. You know, and He gives, that, the moon, the darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And, the people are going to, Satan is going to put so much upon this world that people are, the power of heaven's going to be shaken. But then Yeshua is going to shake it off. But anyway, like I said, I'm not trying to go all of this, because then's when His, the sign of Him is going to be in the heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, and He shall send His angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together His elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the earth. And it tells us to learn the parable of a fig tree. Now I'm not trying to get into that either. I'm not trying to give you each individual thing. I'm just trying to help you to understand that the time is not yet, and we're not to be troubled in the time that we see coming upon the earth right now. We're not to be troubled in that, but we are to put our faith in Him, trust Him, and walk in Him, and let Him lead us through all of this that's coming, and that's here right now, and that is coming. Because all that's here right now, honey, ain't nothing to what is coming. And if you can't stand it today, you surely ain't going to be able to stand it then.
That's right.
Without the Messiah, you're not going to be able to stand it. And just claiming Him, like many today are claiming that He is the Messiah. They've got that part of it right. He is the Messiah. But all the other teachings that they're given, they're deceiving many. There's all kinds of teachers out there that teaches that He is the Messiah, that the Messiah did come, the Messiah did go to the cross, the Messiah did die, He did suffer, He did was buried, and He did raise on the third day. Many teachers, prophets, are teaching that today, but they're not teaching it according to His Word. And that's what we're to seek out, and that's what we're to put our faith in Him. And as far as the coming of the Messiah, Yeshua Himself says, no man knows the hour or the day. Or the day and the hour. No man knows. Not even the angels in heaven knows that day. Just the Father only. But He does say this, just as in the days of Noah shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark. That everything is going to keep getting this way, and children, it wasn't just people living their everyday lives. It was a terrible place. This earth was a terrible place at that time. It was so terrible that God said, I'm going to destroy it. Because man no longer trusts in me, man no longer worships me. They're worshiping their own imaginations and their own evil thoughts, and they're going after their own evil ways. And that's exactly is going on. And it was so terrible in that day that he decided to destroy the earth with water at that time. But he saved 8 souls that he could rebuild and, fulfill the promise that he promised Adam, and fulfill also that the word says that Yeshua stood as a lamb slain from the foundation of the world. He saved 8 souls and fulfill that, and to take out of this world a people for his namesake. But the world was terrible then. It's getting terrible again, but it's not as terrible as it's going to get. And if you ain't got your faith in the Messiah, you're not going to make it. If you're following after what man is teaching about the Messiah and their false doctrines, you're not going to make it. This is coming to such an important thing, especially in these latter days, and I'm not speaking about an imminent coming, but I'm talking about the latter days. We've been in latter days ever since he died and he rose again and went back to heaven and sent his spirit back. We've been in the latter days ever since then. But in these latter days, things are going to get so bad. But if we put our faith and our trust and walk in Him and worship only Him and call upon Him, that's what is going to be able to see us through this. He gives examples of man. 2 women's going to be grinding at the mill. One's going to be tucked, one's going to be left. 2 is going to be on the rooftops. One's going to be tucked, one's going to be left. He's talking. He's just giving an example of his coming. And so he's given them warning from that day until this day, until his coming, is that we are to watch and to put our faith in Him and follow Him. Because he says in 46, for blessed is that servant whom his master, when he cometh, shall find so doing. In other words, trusting in Him, leaning on Him, because He's going to make him ruler over many. And that goes into another thing. People are talking about. I'll briefly say this before I close, but I've been reading here and studying here lately in Zechariah. I believe it is. I've been reading in Ezekiel and Zechariah, but it's where he's talking about in Zechariah where that people are. He makes mentions in the last chapter of that book about those who don't come up to the Feast of Tabernacles during that period of time. A lot of people get things mixed up. Do you know that period that he's speaking of there in Zechariah is actually the saints of God is already gone with Him and is ruling and reigning with Him during that period of time? People don't understand that. But, there's still people on the earth. But He is also, and His saints are with Him. And he's talking about the institution of the Feast of Tabernacles. He will institute that. He will bring things back and institute things. But that's when He comes back, and me and you are already with Him at that time. Study it. You'll understand what I'm talking about there. But anyway, to get us back to the time that we're in this day, many signs and many wonders are going out there in the world today, but they are only the beginning of sorrows. The end is not yet. And Yeshua teaches us, don't be troubled by it. Keep your faith in Him. Trust Him. Lean on Him. Let Him fulfill His righteousness in you. And all of this troubles that's upon the earth today, the turmoil and man against man, which is coming, and family against family, and family member against family member. Trust in Him, because it's coming. Man cannot change it. They're trying to, and crying. A lot of teachers out there are crying, prayer changes things. Well, prayer changes things, but it does not change. Prayer or anything else does not change the will of Yeshua and Yahweh, and what He has already predestinated or predetermined is going to happen to bring about His coming. Prayer is not going to change it. I'm not telling you not to pray. I'm just telling you that when you pray, you understand Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Not thinking that I'm going to go out there and change this world because I'm who I am. I'm a believer in the Messiah, or we as a group of people are who we are as believers in the Messiah. We don't change this world and make it a better place to live. We're not going to make it a better place to live. It's going to get worse.
That's right.
Trust in Him. Live for Him. And be obedient to Him. Peace be unto you.